Why is Mtashed working on a gacha game? And why the hell do I even care? Well, I care because I've been watching Mtashed for over a year, and I've been watching Tuhu too for over a year, even 2 years I'd say. And I've started making gacha content creation because I've been inspired by them. I've been inspired by Tuhu, by Mtashed, by Tectone, by Mr. Pookie, and by Gachabid, my idol. So obviously I am interested in this take of Tuhu on Mtashed, his game, as a consumer. And I've already watched this video yesterday. And I even made a comment on it which got some replies, which we will discuss in a moment when the topic at hand is addressed. So let's have a look at it, see what Tuhu is saying, and I will add some of my thoughts on it.
So dudes, it's your boy Tuhu. Recently I had a guy ask me in my stream if I was gonna play this game that Mtashed said he was working on, an upcoming game called Godforge. I knew that Mtashed had made a video about it before on his YouTube channel, but I didn't watch it then, so I decided to go check it out now that some of my own chats brought it up to me. And after watching that and a demo video for Godforge that the developers of the game put out on their own YouTube channel, I have a few things to say about him, or to put it more bluntly, I'm gonna talk a whole bunch of shit about the game, and more specifically, Mtashed's involvement with it. First,
I'm not gonna lie, I like Tuhu's straightforwardness, you know. He's getting straight to the point. I'm going to talk shit about Mtashed's game and him. I dig that. Really funny.
I should clarify right now that I don't know Mtashed personally or anything, right? I never even talked to the guy. We might have been on the same Gacha cast episode that Tectone hosts that one time I was on it, but the point is that he sure as fuck doesn't know me. I don't watch his content regularly, and before I watched his Godforge promo video, the most I knew about him was that he's the guy who keeps saying he's gonna quit this or that MiHoYo game, but doesn't because he doesn't want to have to go back to making Diablo or Destiny 2 videos that get half or less the views that his gacha videos do.
And that's perfectly fine, you know, not making content on things you know that will be getting less views than the things you don't enjoy as much but make 10 times more the view, you know. And I like the transparency of Mtashed, you know, that he is honest in that.
At least that's what I assume. That, and I have a chip in my shoulder when it comes to the gacha content creation community as a whole, not just Mtashed, because honestly, I think a lot of y'all are fucking fake as shit, and shouldn't even be considered gacha YouTubers or streamers if the only gacha games you play are MiHoYo and or Wuthering Waves. And no, getting sponsored to play a smaller gacha for like a...
Yeah, I get what he is saying, but I hope I get the gacha content creation pass, because I've been playing FGO for quite some time. I started playing it in 2018, played it for a year or two, dropped it, came back a year or two later, played it again for 6 months, dropped it, and then came back again at it, I think 6 months ago. No, I'd say I came back to it 4 months ago and have been playing it to this day. And I've been playing, of course, Honkai Star Rail since release, Zen Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves, and I've also been playing Epic 7, but dropped it after 6 months. So I hope I have the gacha content creation pass.
Day or two, and then never touching again afterwards ain't good enough. If you want to know more about why I feel this way, or if you're just wondering who the fuck this weeb is with all these anime body pillows hung up on the wall behind him, talking shit, go watch
those body pillows on the back are really distracting me.
2 previous videos of mine. They'll explain where I'm coming from better than I will here. Links in the description. Now that you have this context, and having watched Mtashed's Godforge video and the 2.0 developer demo video so that you guys don't have to, let me break down all the problems that I have with the game and Mtashed's involvement with it. First problem, in no particular order by the way, Mtashed says that the graphics in this game look, quote, incredible, unquote. I'm not a 3D animator or anything, so I can't tell you how good the models are. Maybe the 3D models themselves are actually quite high fidelity, so I hesitate to comment on the graphics themselves specifically. At the very least, I don't personally have an issue with them. What I do have a problem with is the presentation. Like, there's nothing about this game that intrigues me in particular. Like, I'm not captivated or impressed by what I'm seeing. The character designs are nothing special, the animations are bland and lack impact.
But I get it. I get why he is saying that the presentation lacks, because 90 or even 95% of Tuhu's audience and Mtashed audience is gacha game players who like those vibrant colors with big anime boobs and hot ass husbandos, you know. So of course, looking at this old medieval-like team, you're being like, it looks whack, the presentation is whack. But there is an audience for this. There are many people who like this. Why
like, what the hell is this animation supposed to be? I assume the characters have voice lines, but I couldn't hear any of them, or at least not well, in either Mtashed's video or the demo to get a sense of how the units themselves are characterized, so that doesn't help. I mean, this is their gacha summoning animation, for God's sake. Like, I don't give a shit that this is supposed to be like a pre-alpha build or whatever the fuck. You're out here asking for beta signups, and you don't even have a fucking summoning animation done?
He has summoning animation, which you just saw. It is an animation, but...
For God's sake. Like, I don't give a shit.
It looks quite
that this is supposed to be like a...
But there are gacha games where we don't even have a summoning animation. It's just like, I don't know, a ticket floating in the air, and then there's like 10 tickets lined up, and one of them is a rainbow, and voila, you have a 5-star character. So, I even think, was that Blue Archive? Does Blue Archive have a summoning animation like that? I don't know if it was a Blue Archive, but there are many animations, but there are many gacha games who have lackluster animation as well.
Pre-alpha build or whatever the fuck. You're out here asking for beta signups, and you don't even have a fucking summoning animation done yet? One of the most important aspects of a gacha game is the presentation, whether it's the graphics themselves or the animations or whatever else. There needs to be something visual about the game that stands out to potential players to give them a reason to come try your game, to hook them.
Like I said, it's just the audience of Mtashed and Tuhu is not the audience that this game is meant for. It's for those medieval-like audience.
So that you then have a chance to show them what the rest of the game is really made of, and then turn them into a regular player.
There are people who see the Starforge game and like, whoa, oh my god, well, Godforge, who see the game and they're like, whoa, I really like this old medieval things, I need to play it. Do you see Raid Shadow Legends? It is exactly like that.
Who will then stick with your game and keep playing it, at least for a while. But judging from what I've seen so far, Godforge doesn't really have much of that visual hook that I'm looking for. I guess maybe the only thing that I can think of is its whole aesthetic. Like, if you're a big fan of ancient mythologies from around the world and seeing them all together in the same universe and interacting with each other, but you're not a filthy weeb or anything, and you prefer a more, let's just say, Western art style, then maybe you'd give this game a try. And even if the graphics were what people considered to be good, that doesn't mean shit to me, because the game itself looks boring. Again, it doesn't give me a compelling enough reason for me to go try it. So at the end of the day, why would I bother with this game when I already play a game like Honkai Star Rail? Speaking of...
Well, if you like this old ancient style more, or the vibrant color of Honkai Star Rail, there are people like that. Of course, Tuhu himself won't ever play a game like that, like you just said. But there is an audience for that. There are many people who like that.
Of Star Rail, the second problem that I have is with the gameplay itself, and I'm going off of the gameplay that was in, like I said earlier, the Godforge 2.0 demo video that the Fateless devs themselves put up on their YouTube channel. The best way that I can describe this is Raid Shadow Legends had an unwanted bastard child with Star Rail, and this is what you get. You have the Raid aesthetic or art style that's combined with the Star Rail UI. The turn order is in the top left, your character icons that display their health and other information along the bottom left, the third-person over-the-shoulder camera angle for your units, buttons for auto and pause and other stuff on the top right, and the action buttons like basic attack and skill on the bottom right. Hell, your character's status effects like buffs and debuffs are even shown underneath their health bars, and enemies have their own HPs and whatever that yellow bar is supposed to be displayed right over them, just like in Star Rail. Given that Mtashed said that he's a
Honkai Star Rail their UI, but just like you said, it is more like it is literally a copy paste. The ult, the basic attacks, the buffs and debuffs under the HP bar, the 4-man team, the action bar. Many games have action bar, just like Epic 7, you know, which is a really popular one.
Consultant for this game, it sounded like, and is helping out with QA and design work, I believe. I don't think any of this is a coincidence. Maybe some things are taken from Raid Shadow Legends instead. I wouldn't know. I don't play Raid. But as someone who's played Star Rail since launch and am still playing it, when I look at this battle UI, I know exactly where it comes from. But if it were only the UI design that got copy-pasted from Star Rail, then I wouldn't really care that much. After all, you can argue that, you know, Wuthering Waves copy-pasted their UI from Genshin, and no one seems to have a problem with that, right? No, what makes this an actual problem for me is that it really looks like they just straight up copied Star Rail's core gameplay too. Every character in this game looks like they have a basic attack, skill, and ultimate. They also have a faction they belong to, an element, or whatever the equivalent of that is in this game, and a class. Your teams have 4 characters who fight one by one.
Exactly, that's the whole problem. The UI doesn't matter, it's like the real core gameplay. It needs something to distinguish themselves from the other competitors. And as you can see, it literally is a copy-paste from Honkai Star Rail, just like Tuhu said.
When their turn comes up, and they can only use either their basic or skill, unless they have their ultimate, in which case it seems like they can pop it whenever they want. Just like in Star Rail. Again, this isn't necessarily an issue on its own. You can have games that are clearly inspired by others. And to use the Wuwa example again, Wuthering Waves has pretty similar gameplay to Genshin, at least on the surface. But the more you play Wuwa, the more you realize it's not quite the same as Genshin. Because Genshin is much more about, team building and elemental reactions and stuff like that, whereas Wuwa is a lot more...
The thing with Genshin is, it is really easy. The thing with Wuwa is, it is very, very difficult, and you have a parry mechanic, and you can run on walls.
Dodge this, bitch. I hope the same goes for Godforge, where it's at least a little more than just, a Western take on Star Rail. Maybe this game has additional mechanics that differentiates gameplay enough from Star Rail to make it feel more like its own game once you've been playing it enough. But all this leads up to my biggest issue when it comes to the gameplay. It's using Star Rail as its inspiration. Of all the games it could have copied its gameplay from, for whatever godforsaken reason, they chose Star Rail.
Yeah,
and
I think they just went for Star Rail is because the thing with Star Rail is it is turn-based, 4-man team, easy peasy. You don't have to worry about open world walking or sprinting, things like that. Just click on your level, spawn your 4 characters, choose your characters, you're good to go, easy peasy.
Ask, why? Mtashed says in his promo video that he wants Godforge to be a knowledge-based game, and in the context of turn-based games, knowledge is more or less skill, because the more you know about how a turn-based game works, as in its mechanics and such, the better you'll play, obviously, since it's not like, mechanical skill like aim or dodging is a thing in this genre. So for all...
You're right, the knowledge in turn-based games is your skill. If you don't have the knowledge, you are lacking the skill. It's absolutely right.
Intents and purposes, I'm gonna have to assume that Mtashed wants Godforge to be a skill-based game. But I don't know if he's aware, but
And the way to make a turn-based game more skill is bring out way more characters, way more enemies with different mechanics, and to skill with me. Alright, do you know how every character works? Do you know how every enemy works? It is time for you to puzzle and mix and match which characters you can put against which enemies. That's the skill.
Star Rail is far from a skill-based game because it's an extremely simple game as far as turn-based games go. Star Rail's gameplay boils down to countering enemy elements and rolling gacha so you can use the latest...
It is not just countering enemy elements though. Maybe for Tuhu it is, since he is a whale in Honkai Star Rail, so because everyone in his team is E6, then of course for him it's just matching the element types and you're good to go. But for the casual player, you really need to know which characters are the best against which enemies, So, it isn't the greatest limited
5-star character to then go destroy any of the endgame modes with them because the enemies you face there, and the extra battle conditions there, favor you having that latest character. Like, the most complicated mechanics that I can think of in Star Rail are things like speed thresholds, where your units gain more actions per cycle at specific speed stats, and Yunli's ult, which surprisingly requires you to have pretty extensive knowledge of enemy attacks and good situational awareness so you don't end up wasting it and having it do a lot less damage because Yunli didn't parry an enemy attack properly. And no, before you ask, I don't think zero cycling in Star Rail is all that impressive because all they boil down to are Eidolons and luck-sacking the fuck out of your relics. Go try doing an FGO...
Yeah, I have never zero cycled in Honkai Star Rail. I've been playing it since day one Honkai Star and I have never done it. I think it's quite boring to do now. It is fun for some people, of course. The puzzling, getting the perfect luck, getting your character X attacked by enemy Y so that character X gets just enough energy to cast his ult, But I don't like it, Just use a sustainer, get your rewards, and you're good to go. The only reason why I would do a zero cycle is just to make content on it, and that's the only reason that many people do it, just to make content on it. But in reality, it's quite boring, I think it's quite boring. I never do it.
GTA, and then we'll talk. So if Star Rail is a very simple game mechanically, and Godforge is basing its gameplay on that, how skill-based is Godforge gonna be exactly? Again, I assume that the developers will add more mechanics to differentiate.
Well, like I said, the only way they can make turn-based games really skill-based is just like Who said too, is the knowledge of the game you have. So many enemies, many characters, many mechanics, and have fun mix and matching which characters you can choose against which enemies in which situations, trying to match the mechanics to your advantage. That's the skill you have. No mechanical skills, just like Who said.
Its gameplay from Star Rail at least a little bit, but I have some very real doubts at the moment as to how much knowledge you'll really need to have to play this game. And to make matters worse, Mtashed also said that Godforge will have PvP. And it seems like he wants it, or at least a part of it, to be as fair and balanced as possible, where gear and whaling for gacha characters won't be a factor and it'll be more about how good you are at the game. And that sounds good and all, sure, but if Godforge ends up not being that much more mechanically dense than Star Rail is, then again, how much skill is there really gonna be? I also question his credentials when it comes to the kind of work that he's done for Godforge. In his video, Mtashed says that he's consulted on things like clan boss design, PvP, and monetization. And after seeing the actual gameplay, it's quite easy to assume that he also probably told the Fateless devs to go look at Star Rail for some inspiration. But how much does he know about these things really? Like some gameplay aspects I'm sure he knows a thing or two about, like boss fight design perhaps, since he comes from a Diablo and Destiny background judging from his previous non-gacha content, so I won't judge him there. But PvP? If you want to design a gacha PvP, then I would hope that you have extensive experience playing other gachas that have PvP to understand what makes...
This brings me back to my comment. Mtashed does have experience and knowledge on gacha PvP, since he has been playing Raid Shadow Legends and Epic 7. Just like I said in my comment, Mtashed does have gacha PvP knowledge and experience, since he has been playing Epic 7 for a long time. Probably 1+ year, since I've been watching his streams for a year, and he mentioned often that he is playing Epic 7, but he doesn't make content on it, which he mentioned a couple of times on his streams in the past, if I remember correctly. And the reason why he doesn't make content on Epic 7 specifically is because he plays it for the fun, you know, he's not a hardcore tryhard, he doesn't want to make money off it, you know, he's just playing for the fun. So yeah, of course we get comments like he's no longer relevant. Yeah, would decide if it's really relevant or not, you know, it is just a waffle comment, you can easily ignore that. Yeah, experience in cutting and making videos, another waffle. Yeah, he is right, 1 year is not that much time, doesn't really equate to experience and knowledge. Of course you have experience and knowledge. You can also, when you play League of Legends for 5 years, you have experience in League of Legends, but you can still be stuck in the bronze the whole 5 years. So yes, you have experience and knowledge, but do you have the credibility and the proof that you have good experience and knowledge? And that is why I'm too, another Epic 7 content creator, says that he has never seen Mtashed in higher tiers of PvP. So his point is, you really need a high level player and subject matter expert for these things. So that makes absolutely sense what Tsu says. Mtashed, to make him a credible gacha PvP expert, he needs to have the higher tiers. And I don't know if he is high in the PvP in Epic 7 or Raid Shadow Legends. But we aren't the ones who decide whether Mtashed is a good fit to be a participant of the Fateless team. The Fateless team, they decide who is a good participant to help them make their game. Or maybe Mtashed went there with a bag of money, like, I will help you with your game if you give me 10% of your company, and here's already 10k for you. Of course, that's something that could happen, but what the hell do we know? You know, we are just speculating. But my point is, we aren't the ones who decide whether Mtashed is a good fit. The team is the one who decide that. And if they say Mtashed is a good consultant for us, and they have picked him for reason X, Y, and Z, then that's on them, of course.
Them work or not, because a PvP experience in a gacha game is quite a bit different than what you'll find in other normal games. And again, looking at his YouTube content, I don't see very many non-MiHoYo gachas that he's made videos for that weren't, you know, sponsored videos, most likely. In my eyes, he's just another generic gacha content creator who rode the initial Genshin popularity.
In someone's eyes, you know. It is just to really know someone, what they are doing is you need to watch their streams, you know. But who's going to watch a 3-hour stream, you know, every time someone streams, you know? And I've done that because I have been a consumer of Mtashed's content over the years.
Wave back in 2020 and still makes his daily bread from MiHoYo games, and that's it. And given that I've been told that he doesn't even like gacha games all that much, he doesn't particularly strike me as the kind of dude who plays other gacha games off camera. I know very little about game development, and usually I don't, you know, go out of my way to criticize someone in a field that I don't feel qualified to speak in. But in this case, I would like to think that if you're being hired as a consultant for something, you should at least have a lot of experience in regards to the field that the project you're working on is in. Maybe Mtashed has a lot.
Mtashed does have the experience, but does he have good experience? So, like I said, you can play League of Legends for 5 years, but you can still be stuck in bronze. Sure, you have experience and knowledge, but you suck. Mtashed does play PvP, Gacha, Epic 7, and Raid Shadow Legends, but like I'm too said, he needs to be in high tiers and extensive knowledge. But like I said, we aren't the ones who decide whether he's a good fit. The team, the Fateless team decides whether he's a good fit for the team.
A lot of experience in some areas that the Fateless devs find very valuable, and all credit to him if that's the case. And I actually fully agree with what Mtashed says in his video about how gacha games need to be played as actual games, that playing the game itself needs to be treated as a priority, so I think he's at least got the right mindset to work on Godforge. But considering the game they're working on is a gacha, and gacha games are quite a bit different from normal games, I would expect Mtashed to also have a lot of experience with gacha games specifically. But at the moment, with what I know about him and what I've seen, I don't think he does. And perhaps my biggest problem with Mtashed's video is this. He doesn't call Godforge a gacha. Not once in his entire video does he label it as a gacha game. The wording he specifically uses to describe it is a hero collector turn-based RPG.
Yeah, the reason why Mtashed is not specifically calling I'm saying Starforge the whole time because of Asmongold. Goldforge. The reason why Mtashed is not saying gacha game is maybe because he doesn't want to make it seem like that to be good in this game, that you need to be lucky in your gacha, that you need to use the gacha mechanic. He really wants to push in the fact that you need to have extensive skill, so knowledge of the game to be good at the game. Because gacha, in most gacha games, to be good in the game, you need to have the good characters or get lucky with your character pools and your relics, of course. So maybe that's why he is not pushing it as a gacha game. He's really trying to push it as a skill-based game.
It is a turn-based RPG. It is a hero collector. There's lots of gear. There's lots of factions. It is a game that is essentially next-gen Raid Shadow Legends, if you want to call it that.
Or something like that. And because I watched this video first, before looking at the developer gameplay video, I was like, okay, I assume Godforge isn't a gacha then. Given that Mtashed apparently doesn't like gachas that much, so like, why would he work on one, right? But lo and behold, this developer gameplay video clearly shows a gacha screen. They even show their unfinished summoning animation, which hopefully they've got one now that's actually finished. So clearly, Godforge is a gacha game.
Really
so then why the fuck did Mtashed not just call it that in his video? Was he trying to hide it so that, you know, he can get more people to play it? Because he's afraid that some people...
My theory is he doesn't want to make it seem like to be good in this game that you need to have the gacha look. To be good in the game, you need to have real knowledge of the game. It may be just a marketing strategy. Who knows? We don't know. All we can do is just hypothesize.
People won't play it if they find out that it's a gacha, or maybe the devs themselves told him not to call it a gacha in his video. Whatever the case...
Possible.
Personally, I find it very suspicious that he's working on a gacha game, but in his promotional video for it, he doesn't call it as such.
Yeah.
Maybe to the average viewer, this isn't really that big of a deal, but for someone like me, who made a whole-ass video inflating my own fucking ego to enviosity levels calling himself the god of gacha games, it absolutely is. And the reason why is because, as I alluded to before, Gacha games are very distinct from other genres, so much so that we call any game with like an RNG system of distributing playable characters and weapons and other content that you can spend both free and premium currency on a gacha. Right? Even though gacha games themselves can have wildly different gameplay genres, from things like, you know, turn-based and tower defense to real-time arena combat and even shooters. Think of it this way. When you talk about Genshin Impact, for example, if someone asks you what Genshin is, the first thing that most people would say is that it's a gacha game. Most people wouldn't call it an open world action RPG as like the first thing that comes to mind,
would they?
Right? Maybe as the second thing to describe what kind of gacha game it is, but certainly not the first. If you play a gacha, you're calling it a gacha because the whole gacha element and the gameplay loop associated with it are such predominant features of these kinds of games. That's why I believe that Mtashed not explicitly calling it a gacha in his promo video is an intentional decision made on either his part or the developers. And regardless of who made it, to me, this comes off as misleading, borderline deceptive even. So now that I have this impression, why the fuck would I ever bother playing this whack-ass Raid Shadow Legends ripoff?
They just could say in the promotion video, they can say, but we won't classify it as a gacha because this and this. You know, just be transparent a little bit, you know. Just like Tuhu said, it's a bit deceptive and dishonest. Just be straight up like him.
Let me give you a case study on another gacha game for comparison's sake, and it's a game that I mentioned briefly in the middle of this video. This game is called FGO, or Fate Grand Order for short. This is the very first gacha game I ever played, and it's what got me into gacha games as a whole back in 2017. FGO, like Star Rail, is also a turn-based game, but unlike in Star Rail, there are a lot of mechanics that you have to keep track of if you want to play it optimally. In Star Rail, attacking is pretty simple. When it's your character's turn, you can either select a basic attack or a skill, and when they have their ultimate ready, you can use it at any time so long as that character isn't immobilized somehow, or if it's not currently an enemy's turn. In FGO, on the other hand, your characters, called servants, attack when you select 3 cards out of the 5 that you're dealt at the start of your turn on the bottom right of your screen. Every servant has a particular deck of 5 cards out of a possible total of 6 different deck types, and every deck always has 3 types or colors of cards: Quick, Arts, and Buster. Each type of card is designed to do different things. Quick cards generate crit stars that give your attacks on the next turn a chance to crit. Right, Arts cards generate charge to help servants build up their noble phantasms, or MPs for short, or in other words, their ultimates, and Buster cards do the most damage. You with me so far? When selecting cards to attack, your leadoff card, or your card that you pick first, affects the rest of your card chain depending on its type. A quick leadoff increases both the star generation rate and crit rate of the whole chain by 20%. An arts leadoff increases the MP generation rate of the whole chain by 100%, and a buster leadoff increases the damage of the chain by 50%. There are also card combos that have similar effects. A quick chain, or 3 quick cards, instantly produces 20 stars for your next turn, separate from all the stars that the quick cards themselves will also produce on that turn. An arts chain, or 3 arts cards, instantly gives every servant who contributed a card to that chain 20% MP charge, and a buster chain, or 3 buster cards, further increases the damage of that chain by another 20%. There's the brave chain, which happens when you pick 3 cards from the same servant, and this gives that servant a bonus 4th attack that's called the extra attack. There's also the mighty chain, which requires 1 card of each color, and it combines the leadoff effects of all 3 colors. And lastly, depending on the servant, you can get chains that combine card type combos with brave chains. So if, for example, a servant has 3 quick cards available and you select all of them, that's called a quick brave chain. 3 arts cards from the same servant is called an arts brave chain. 3 buster cards from the same servant is a buster brave chain. And if you get 3 cards from the same servant and they're all different colors, that's called a mighty brave chain. Did you get all that? This will be on the test. And you have to keep all that in mind just to figure out which cards you want to use on any given turn, which means that everything we just covered is basic entry-level information. We haven't even talked about how each servant in the game also has 3 skills and a noble phantasm that you have to keep track of. And we haven't even gotten into things like the counterclass system, the attribute system, the random 10% damage window, super effective mods.
So you know what this do with FGO? There are many mechanics going on, but the FGO game themselves don't explain anything Yeah, they explain a little bit, but they explain so little. FGO is just 50% of the game. The other 50% is just external sites you're going to use. Like you said with this wall... where is it? With the wall...
system. The
trade.
attribute system.
The attribute system. There's also a trade system, all those stuff. This wall table, all from a third-party website. In the game, they don't show you anything. That's quite a big problem in FGO, you know. Sure, it is quite extensive in gameplay, but it's quite like to know what a boss is doing. The mechanics of the boss isn't described anywhere. In the Honkai Star Rail, it is described, you know. You can just click on the boss, you see his abilities. But in FGO, you don't know anything. Just do trial and error. And if you do trial and error, it costs you 5 energy the wall time. So in Honkai Star Rail terms, that would be your trail-based power. It'll cost you 5 trail-based power, we can say. And if you really want to know all the mechanics of a boss, you can fight against him 10, 20 or 100 times to know what the hell he's doing. Because it isn't described anywhere. That's
the random 10% damage window, super effective mods, looping and reloading, and card counting, among other things. And that's before we get to the part where there are over 400 playable characters in the game. Speaking of servants, let's take a look at a few of them. FGO features both characters who are based on famous figures throughout history, both real and fictional, and their own original characters who have the power to fight alongside these famous figures, not unlike how Mtashed described the premise of Godforge in his video. And in the Godforge developer footage, I noticed that Mtashed and Heracles are both playable characters in that game. So here's how they look in FGO. Each servant has 3 different skins by default that you can unlock by ascending them, with their 4th and final ascension giving them a special artwork featuring them in one of those skins. And yes, before you ask, Mtashed is a waifu in this game, and for some reason she has a summer variant where she wears an American flag bikini. Don't ask why, it's complicated. Anyways, let's compare their animations. These are their animations in Godforge. And these are their animations in FGO.
He's trying to portray it in a bad way with the background music. I get it. But it looks quite wacky. He is absolutely right. It looks really wacky. There are way better FGO animations though. He's just choosing this one. It's quite cool too, but there are way cooler ones. 9 lives of Berserker. Heracles. All in one XP total.
Even if you don't like the anime aesthetic that FGO has, I think there's no question that the animations in FGO are much more impactful than anything you'll see in Godforge so far. Also, Godforge's character design is pretty generic to me when I'm used to seeing shit like this. Let me end the video by saying this.
That goes back to my point. Tuhu is someone who has been playing big boba anime games. And Godforge is all about this old medieval-like things going on, you know. Of course he's going to be like, this looks like a whack game. For me, it looks also like a whack game. But there are people who really dig that shit, you know. But we ain't one of them.
Sure, Fateless and Mtashed 2, for that matter, have worked hard on Godforge.
Aesthetic-wise speaking, then. Gameplay-wise, it looks like too much like Honkai Star Rail. It's absolutely right about that. They really need that distinguishable core mechanic thing going on to make it a skill-based game. And how they are going to do that, we still don't know.
Even if I know nothing about game development, I do know that it's not easy, especially these days. But what I do know is gacha. And unlike Mtashed, I have a lot of experience, perhaps a little too much, with it. I've played lots of different gacha games. I still play most of them that I picked up over the years. And most of all, I actually like playing them, instead of bitching about how I'm about to quit one every other goddamn week. I'm not saying that the Fateless
I get that many people get irritated by Mtashed when he is saying, I'm going to quit a gacha game, he doesn't quit it, you know. Of course, that's normal. But that's just him being honest, you know. Ooh, everybody is like that, you know. Me, even in life, you know, I'm saying, I'm going to quit my study, my computer science study, I'm going to study electrical engineering. No, I don't want to do electrical engineering, I want to do aerodynamics. Then I want to do chemistry the other day. Then I want to do cosmology the other day, you know. The other day I want to do mechatronics. Everybody's like that. I bet many of you don't even know what the hell you're doing or why the hell you're playing a game. But my point is, it is just Mtashed being a human, you know. He is just trying to find his way. But you can of course say that if you don't know what path you need to take, then it doesn't matter what path you take. The thing is, Mtashed is really transparent, you know. He is not trying to fake it. There are many gacha content creators who don't enjoy playing their games, and Mtashed is being honest about it. He's saying, I'm going to quit this game. The next day, he's still playing the game, and he's transmitting that, I don't know why the hell I'm playing. I'm playing because of the money, of the views. He wants to quit, but he isn't quitting. It can get irritating, yes. Why he does that. It is just Mtashed, his uncertainty in what he really likes or doesn't like, you know. He's stuck in that for like a year or two. And I prefer a gacha content creator who is transparent about his uncertainties than a gacha content creator faking the game he plays, you know. That he is faking that he likes playing a game, you know.
Hired me instead of Mtashed or anything. Again, I'm sure that they had the reasons for bringing him on board, and it's not like Mtashed doesn't know anything about gacha. He has been playing MiHoYo games for the past 3 years, even if it's just on and off, and that's not nothing. But what I am saying is that if the developers of Godforge truly care about giving their game the best chance of success, they should consider looking for another consultant or two who have some actual gacha experience. And
maybe they have. The hell do we know? Maybe there are some gacha content creators who are working as a consultant for Fakeless, but they haven't just gone out in public saying that they are working as consultants for them, you know? Maybe just because they don't want to mess up their public image, you know? We don't know. Maybe there are people. Or Fakeless just could say, we have many more gacha consultants who are specialized in this and that, but they don't have to disclose their names.
Not just Honkai Star Rail. Oh, and also, have him call it a gacha game next time, because that's a pretty important detail y'all left out. And that'll do it for my rant about Mtashed and his involvement in Godforge. If you liked what I had to say here, make sure to like the video and subscribe. I have more videos like this on the channel, and more to come. I got a Patreon in case you want to see your name show up at the end of these videos, and I also dual stream to both YouTube and Twitch, twitch.tv/ToastNumber98. So, stop by if you want to talk about anything gacha related. Thanks for watching, be cool y'all, and see you in the next one.
I really like Tuhu's takes, you know. He is right. He's just a bit uncertain whether this Godforge game is truly going to succeed. Mtashed now lately doesn't have that of a great image because of the whole drama with Tectone and Hexjuice, you know. And I watched the whole thing unfold. It was really sad to see, you know. Mtashed is a good guy, you know. I really like him. It's just he put himself in such an awkward situation, you know. It got really weird, and it's really truly a shame, you know. Tectone and Mtashed were great, you know, together in the past. It was a really fun their world dynamic, but yeah, they just made it so that they don't talk about each other anymore and all. So yeah, I get that Godforge also gets this deceptive, weird drama around this because Mtashed is working on it, and you can doubt Mtashed's expertise in many things because he is because of his uncertainty on why he is playing a game or not, because he's the whole time saying he's going to quit, but he's going to quit. But it's good to talk about these things, you know. It may be a nice indicator for Fakeless to be more open about the people they're working in, what many more consultants they have, why they have chosen Mtashed. But I really like this video. It's a nice thing to talk about. So I thank you for your time and see you the next time. Bye.